Hi everyone, welcome back to a new video, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the announcement from James Gunn from early last week with the announcement of the DC Universe and his plans for it, which are a little strange. I'll prefix all of this by saying I'm more of a Marvel guy, as you can probably see in the background, although I am a very big fan of Mr. Cavill as Superman and think he's been screwed over a bit too much in this role. I thought the move of James Gunn himself taking over as the head of DC was strange. I've not been a fan of any of his films. The first time I saw Guardians, I thought, this is quite good. It's because it was different in that time of Marvel, just coming out of Phase 1, going like really into space with some absolute D-list characters in the realm of Marvel, bringing them up a bit. The comic sales have been terrible for Guardians, always have been, never been that great. The films never really helped improve it. I thought the film was fine. Second watch through, like a year or so later, not much. You know, it was fine. Probably the hype of it too much. The second film, I thought was a rehash of the first. It took the things that the memes that people liked and just upped that. The Baby Groot, the music. It seems James Gunn cannot really do a film unless it's scored by music he likes, which I'm wondering what's he going to do with his films for DC. Is it all going to be based in 70s, 80s music, or is he actually going to like put some thought into it? So we're going to go through the announcement video, give you some thoughts along the way, and then I found a couple of articles afterwards that he's talked a little more in depth so we can try and figure out what the hell all of this is, because it's very strange. So, it's called Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters, which I also think is a piece of music that Hans Zimmer did for BVS. I'm sure there's a piece of music called Gods and Monsters in that.
Hey
So,
everybody, I'm James Gunn. I'm the co-CEO of DC Studios. So as many of you know,
I will say straight away,
has been disconnected in film and television.
this kind of presentation,
And it's one of, our jobs.
it's odd.
mine and
It's like a,
Peter's,
it's
is
like
to
a
come
Zoom
in and make sure
call
that
with him.
DCU is
There's no real
connected to
presentation.
film, television, gaming, and
Look,
animation.
feel
That
to
the
it.
characters are consistent, played by the same actors, and it works within one story. And if some
So, that's fine. It's going to be consistent over video games, animation, comics. Okay. Comics, I think they'll be doing supplementary things. Marvel did try to do that. I remember there was like, I think it was a Las Vegas trip or something with Happy and Tony in between Iron Man 1 and 2. So they did try to do some extra storytelling, filling in some gaps during the different films, but it never really panned out. Animation, fine. I think it might start to feel things will be spread too thin if you're expecting people to understand references in films that are from TV shows, from video games, from cartoons. It's like you're expecting an awful lot from people who might already be fans, but then you're also expecting a lot from absolute normies who probably don't have the time to like dive deep into this. So
thing is outside of that, like Matt Reeves' Batman or Todd Phillips' Joker or Teen Titans Go, that it is clearly labeled as DC Elseworlds.
that's something that I found interesting. I was hoping Marvel would do something like this with some of their characters when it comes to like Daredevil or Punisher. You know, you could label things as Marvel Knights and it would be an adult take rather than try to water things down, which we're starting to see with Daredevil. So I don't mind the Elseworlds thing. It's happened in comics. Marvel have it, DC have it. That's fine. It will start to become a problem if there's multiple Batmans, multiple Jokers. Again, people who are adverse to this type of thing and have been going to see everything and are just maybe following the Batman will be like, wait, there's a young Batman, there's a cartoon Batman, there's this one. Like, they'll pick one and stick with it. So it's, I can understand because these are legacy things that he's come in to and these are already in development, so it's sort of like, right, we'll get these out of the door. I think the Elseworlds thing will be slowly pushed under the rug in a couple of years. Similar to how, like, Star Wars wanted to do Star Wars stories, like Solo was going to be the first of many little side stories that aren't part of the overall arcing long story. Just little things here and there that kind of went away quite quick.
Outside of the mainstream DCU continuity. Now, Peter and I have gotten pretty lucky in terms of the 4 projects that are coming out over the next year. First, we have Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Shazam has always been off kind of in his own part of the DCU.
No, he's not. No, he's not. He's clearly been part of the other DCU, or the Snyderverse, if you want to call it that, because the Henry Cavill Superman did turn up in it, what his suit did, as an Easter egg towards the end. I think it was like a mid-credits thing in the first film. So it's obviously part of that universe. It's not a different one. It's not like it was the Brandon Routh suit, or it was Tom Welling suit, or something like that. It was clearly based in that universe. It was that suit. So it maybe feels like it's felt different because it's tonally more brighter and more fun and a bit more slapstick-like. But, no.
So he connects very well. That moves directly into The Flash, a fantastic movie that I really love that resets the entire DC universe. The
Flash is an odd one. We've heard about this Flash film for what seems like 10 years now. I remember one of the early San Diego Comic-Con panels where they put the big plan of everything out there. That's been there for ages, probably since BVS, because they've even teased that inside BVS with a Flash coming through and being like, it's always been her, it's Lois, and then he's like, oh, I've come too soon. That was my always thought of that was, that's a piece from the Flash film that when we do eventually see it, or it'll all tie together. God knows how it will now. I do know that there's supposed to be multiple Batman in that film. I think that this might be the only time we might see Michael Keaton come back as Batman, since that Batgirl film got shelved for good. I think they'll bring it out at some point, like just maybe as a DVD extra or something, if they're going to do DVDs in the future. Or Blu-ray, sorry. But I don't know. I think it's a convenient way to do things in a way that we're going to re-establish things, we're going to reset things, but it's the more that we go into this and the articles that come out afterwards, it's like, is only resetting certain things and not resetting everything. If he was going to do it as a clean slate, fine. It seems he might be picking his favourites.
Move into Blue Beetle, a fantastic film.
Everything's a fantastic film.
About a kid who's a marvelous part of the DCU, and then into Aquaman 2, which leads directly...
He didn't say that's fantastic, though. I have no idea who Blue Beetle is. So my interest in that is slim to none. I don't think I've even seen a trailer for it. I think, is that due out this year? Aquaman 2? The first film was passable, fine. It played more like Shazam in a slapsticky way. It was bright and colourful. I think it was taking like the colour palette from Joss Whedon's cut of the Justice League, where they tried to tone down what was done before with Man of Steel and BVS, and to some extent the first Wonder Woman film, and bring it more into like the Marvel sphere. I liked what was been done before with Zack Snyder. I know there's people out there like, oh, I hate the Snyder Cut, I hate it. I'll tell Zack Snyder to his face I hate it. It's like, alright, big boy, like, calm down. I liked that it was totally different. I liked the fact that it felt a bit more gritty and grounded. Okay, some of the cues and ties that it's the way that Batman and Superman met and interact with each other might not have been to everyone's liking, because it's not what it's been from the Justice League cartoons from the 90s or in the comics, but it's a different way of establishing things, and I kind of like the grittiness. I kind of like the fact that all the guys are just big, beefy men, like Ben Affleck's Batman. I have the Iron Studios 1 in 10 scale to go along with this Henry Cavill Superman. I have that coming later this year. Ben Affleck's Batman, I think, will always be one of those untapped resources that we've never got to see fully realised. And if Mr. Gunn is going to be resetting things and doing things, bring Ben back. We'll see his announcement in a while with the Batman film. Bring Ben back. He'd be the right age for the Bruce that he's aiming for in this. I think that's going to be one of those things that people will always theorise and look at, like, what could have been. And that's going to be the sad fact about all this.
Into our next few projects, which I'm going to tell you about now. So, Peter and I, along with a group of very talented writers, have started to map out an 8 to 10 year plan of what DC
8 to 10 year. 8 to 10 year. That's wishful thinking. That's very, very wishful thinking. I think it's good to have, like, maybe a broad outline of things, but, like, trying to, pin down things, plot out things, get release dates already. Like, the Marvel phases felt natural. It felt like it didn't feel like there was a big plan until we got towards the Avengers. Like, Iron Man 1 tied slightly to the Hulk. And then First Avengers tied slightly to Iron Man and all that just because of Howard Stark. And the little the start of the end credit thing, which everyone seems to think every film should have mid-credits and end credits now because of what Marvel did with their early stuff. And all that felt like natural growth, and then after the Avengers it just seemed to grow more and more and more, and now feels maybe slightly too bloated for me. It does. I collected comics for like 15 years. I stopped nearly 10 years ago, so my knowledge of what's going on in that world gone, but I love my time reading comics, but like now it's like there's just too much. There's too much, and I think trying to plan something like this, if it fails, if your first few things fail and you've got that 8 to 10 thing, you're going to be scrambling because you're going to be re-adding things in or taking things out or moving things on the fly because one thing worked, one thing didn't, and it's like, all right, that worked, right, we'll go in that direction. Like you did with Guardians. All right, this worked. Okay, for the second film, we'll just do more of what worked. It's like, and that's what I didn't like. It was that over the top, like, oh, that worked. People thought that was funny. People liked the fact that it had retro music in. Let's do more. That's what I didn't enjoy.
Film, television, and gaming. This first chapter is called Gods and Monsters. Now, this, what I'm about to tell you, is a part of the first chapter. It's not the entire first chapter. The first project is Creature Commandos.
Who the fuck are these? Who the fuck are they? I think this is supposed to be set in World War One or World War Two. Of course, it's got his brother in because he has to put his brother in. It's like it's like he has to. It's like they made some blood pact as kids. Like, I'll make sure you always have a job. As soon as this was announced, like, this isn't. I'm not going into this fresh. I've seen this. I've been mulling over in my mind whether to do a video on it for days. This guy looks like a straight rip-off from Hellboy. This just plays into his wheelhouse of, oh look, wacky characters no one knows, I'll do this. And this is the theme that I'm getting from watching this video. The first time was, he seems to be picking up the toys that he likes and doing what he wants with them, rather than doing what the audience might want. Like, who cares about this in any way whatsoever? It probably had a small following at some point in time, and no one really thinks about it. But because he likes his wacky characters he can play and mould and do things with, this is how he's kicking off his universe.
Creature Commandos is an animated series. I've written all the episodes. Something we're going to do that's a little bit...
See, he's written all his episodes, just like he wrote and directed The Suicide Squad. I had no interest in that. I didn't enjoy the original Suicide Squad, just like he did Peacemaker with John Cena. And it's sort of like, it's his thing. It's like, you're in DC now, shouldn't you be hitting Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Flash, like, your big things?
Bit different at DC.
No,
we're gonna
have to start with wacky characters.
Out of animation, usually having the same actor play their voice as who plays them in live action. The next project up is Waller. This is a story of Amanda Waller, played by Viola Davis.
Again, who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck? Yes, Viola Davis was Waller in both versions of the Suicide Squad. David Ayer and his version, so it all ties together in some weird way, even though one tonally different to the other and the characters are slightly different. Who cares? This just feels like it'll be a villain of the week show where she'll be sending someone out on a mission, on a wacky adventure, and they might die at the end.
Viola Davis is going to team up with...
Also, calling it Waller, like Cher or Madonna. Do the general public, if you ask anyone on the streets or anyone even vaguely aware of comics, just say the word Waller, are they going to go, oh, Viola Davis from Suicide Squad, she were amazing as that woman who was in it 5 minutes and she turned up for 30 seconds at the end of Black Adam? It's like, no one cares. No one cares.
Members of Team Peacemaker, and this is a story that's been created by Crystal Henry, who did Watchmen, and Jeremy Carver, who...
That's the TV show Watchmen, by the way, not the Zack Snyder Watchmen, which was really good. Really good. The TV show Watchmen, which wasn't very good, and got cancelled after one season.
Created the Doom Patrol. It is a fantastic...
Oh, the Doom Patrol. That feels like something that he'd like.
Story that's out of this world.
It's fantastic.
People to see it. Okay, next up is the big one, the true beginning of the DCU. This is called Superman Legacy. This is being written...
This image is Superman, All-Star Superman. I did actually read this. I think I got the first 10 issues of it. I thought this was when I was like, I'm going to try and get into DC. After all I was reading back in the day was, Punisher, Daredevil, Captain America, the various Marvel crossovers, and Amazing Spider-Man. But when this came out, because it was brand new, sort of a retelling, new version of Superman, not towards... I did get Superman Year One, which I thought was alright, because that was more like a grounded, gritty sort of take on teenage, early Superman. This, I thought it was okay. It was fine. It was fine.
By me, I'm in the middle of it. I'm having...
There's a lot. It's written by me. Everything's by me.
A great time doing
He might be directing as well.
Superman will be released into theaters July 11th, 2025.
2025. So, we've got a year and a half, basically, because it's, February 23 now. There's been no production on it whatsoever. He's wrote it. He might be directing it. There's been no casting. There's probably been no storyboarding. There's been no previs. There's been no costume design. Costume department. No sets being built. There probably won't be any sets being built. It'll all be done in Unreal Engine 5, on the Void, in the big blue screen computer background that the Mandalorian pioneered, and everyone's used it now, and everything looks bland. This is a rush. This is an absolute rush job. Most films take 2.5 to 3 years to do, and a lot of that should be back-end work, visual effects. This is a rush. And that doesn't sound good straight away. That is going to be a rush job. Also, the title, Superman Legacy. Legacy seems to be, for me, a word you'd use at the end of something, not at the start of something. So, he's already said in different interviews that this is going to be... It's Superman. He's working at the Daily Planet, Lois Lane. It's not early Smallville Superman. Feels like just after that. So it's like, again, we're back to a young Superman. I'd like at some point to see Superman in his prime, where he's fully developed, he knows who he is, he knows his standards, all his set of characters are already established. Everyone knows the set characters in Superman's world. We don't need to see him meet Lois Lane for the first time, meet, Pete Olsen for the first time. It's like watching Uncle Ben die again. It's like everyone knows this. It's like kids out of the womb know this straight away. I'd quite like to see him get to face some bad guys, like Brainiac at some point. Not like, oh, is Lex Luthor going to be in this? Oh, is it going to be Michael Rooker? Is it going to be your mate who's in everything you do?
Okay, the next thing is a big premiere HBO television series called Lanterns. This is a story of a couple of Green Lanterns, John Stewart and Hal Jordan, and we have a few other Lanterns peppered in there, but this is really a terrestrial-based TV show, which is almost like True Detective with a couple of Green Lanterns who are space cops.
Space cops. This is one of the only ones from his announcement that I've thought, okay, I might give this a watch. It might be a bit different. The last Green Lantern we saw was Ryan Reynolds playing Ryan Reynolds like he does in everything. He's just, no matter what suit he puts on, no matter what he does, he's Ryan Reynolds playing Ryan Reynolds. He looks like Pikachu. It's Ryan Reynolds. It's Deadpool. It's Ryan Reynolds. He's a different guy in an action film. It's Ryan Reynolds. He's boring. This could be interesting. I don't know how it'll all tie together. Like in Space Cops, is it going to be good cop, bad cop kind of thing with both of them? Are they both going to be doing separate things? Is it going to be like a buddy cop thing? But because he said True Detective, slightly gritty, maybe. I don't really know True Detective that well. All I know from True Detective is that girl with the big old boobies. When she got them out, that's the only thing I know from True Detective. That's all I know.
Watching over Precinct Earth. In it, they discover a terrifying mystery that ties into our larger story of the DCU. Next is a big
which he never mentions.
The Authority. The Authority is a passion project of mine.
Everything's a passion project of yours, mate. None of this feels like it's catered towards the normal fan who only knows the vagueness of the DCU, like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern, maybe Aquaman. This is all, it feels like it's all feeding his ego. And if this is all successful, great. But again, it's another group of random people no one knows about.
It's based on the marvelous Wildstorm characters.
Wildstorm was a set of comics from the late 90s, early 2000s, which didn't really work.
We are now bringing into the DCU and will interact with all of our primary DCU characters. The Authority are a group of superheroes who think the world is broken and they want to fix it by any means necessary. I think it's a very different look at superheroes.
No, we have the Boys. The Boys is very similar tonally to what this will be, because it's more of a street level, you could say anti-heroes more than anything, than heroes who will, they'll bend the rules, they'll go to some grey areas, they might go, full rogue if they need to for certain things, but it's one of those, okay, here's another group of heroes, you've got some broken characters who are probably got mental health problems and they take you out, and it's like, alright James, we know everything's we know it's in your wheelhouse.
We're doing a television series called Paradise Lost. Paradise Lost is the story of Paradise Island, usually known as Themyscira, which is the birthplace of Wonder Woman. It's almost like Game of Thrones with Westeros, but with all of the inhabitants of Paradise Island.
No thanks. Unless they go down the role of like Spartacus. Like, I'd have said maybe more Spartacus because it looks quite more Roman and Greek than, saying Game of Thrones will probably get some guys at Warner Brothers slightly hard or slightly wet. It'd be like, ooh, we said Game of Thrones, we can have our own gritty Game of Thrones. It's like, alright, but this is pre-Diana, pre-Wonder Woman, so it's about her land. Are they going to be using any of the people that were in the Snyderverse? Dunno. Are we going to see Brooke Wells, the CrossFit woman, back? Dunno. Have I got any interest? No.
The introduction of the DCU's Batman is The Brave and the Bold. The Brave and the Bold is the story of Batman and his actual son, Damian Wayne. This is based on Grant Morrison's great comic book run. Damian Wayne is my favorite Robin. He's a little assassin who Batman tries to get in line, and so this is...
He's a little shit. He's a little shit. Again, he's gone for his favourite Batman and his favourite Damian Wayne, skipping over probably, I think, 4 other Robins before we get here. We have, I don't know them all off the top of my head because I'm not a huge DC fan. I know we've skipped over Jason Todd and Dick Grayson, who probably in this timeline would probably be old enough to be Nightwing. So whether we get something of him, but it's an odd choice. This feels like it'll be a Batman in his late 30s, maybe early 40s, which for me it's like, I think Ben Affleck could still pull that off. I just don't know, because this feels like it'll be this Dick Grayson will probably be more like a kick-ass character, where he'll be, you know, a little bit of a brat type thing, and he has to pull him in line. So is it more of a Damian Wayne thing than Batman? And you know, we know how James Gunn feels about little boys, as is seen in his old tweets that he deleted and got sacked from Disney from, and had to make an apology. And his apology's quite funny. That it says is a different person now. I'm a different person than a few years ago. Dude was in his 40s when he were making all these kiddie jokes. So it's like, he wasn't a teenager trying to be edgy online. He was a full-grown man.
The story of the two of them and the beginning of sort of the Bat family in the DCU.
Not really the beginning of the Bat family. Bat family's been going years, mate. You've skipped ahead. You've got Nightwing out there somewhere. You've got a dead Jason Todd. So you've already skipped over a fantastic storyline. Skipped over one of the biggest Batman storylines there is to get to... He's already got Damian Wayne, who's probably like 10 or 11, so you've skipped over the formation of his relationship, his twisted, weird relationship with Talia al Ghul, who, let's say it's not really consensual, their relationship in some ways. You skipped all of that to like a kid, an actual kid, like probably pre-teenage, which, you know, James might like.
Next up is a TV series called Booster Gold. Booster Gold is one of comics' really popular cult heroes. He is a fascinating guy.
The fuck is he?
A loser from the future who uses future technology to come back to present day and become a superhero so that people will love him.
If you say so, mate.
The superhero story.
No idea.
Imposter Syndrome on an HBO Max series.
Imposter Syndrome, eh? I think he knows that quite well, because he's playing an imposter now, because deep down he's still this guy. He's still this guy, but he's a big Hollywood guy now, making some good money. So he's keeping that locked away in the back of his mind, because he has to make good money now.
My favorite comic book series from last year was
my
Tom
favorite.
King's
His
run of
favorite.
Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. And
Oh
so
dear.
we're going to turn that into...
Tom King has a lot of issues. A lot of issues. He likes his broken characters, because I think he's slightly broken man himself. So you're never going to get a real good, fun, feel-good story from Tom King. It's always going to leave you being like, it's sad.
To a big science fiction epic film. Now, Superman is a guy who was sent to Earth and raised by loving parents, whereas Supergirl in this story, she is a character who was raised on a chunk of...
The normal version of Kara was that she was also... Well, there's many different versions. The one I know is that she got sent in a pod as well, but her pod got mistracked and came to Earth many years later after Clark, even though I think she was slightly older than him at the time. That's the version that I kind of know. I know there's many different versions of her. I do remember the... is it Alicia? Oh, I can't remember her name. From Smallville. She was...
Krypton.
Tasty.
She watched everybody around her perish in some terrible way.
So we've got a sad broken girl who had to watch everyone die. She had to salvage and work for herself and build herself up. Great. So we've got basically Brie Larson's Captain Marvel here, where she's the best, but she's going to be probably slightly arrogant, a bit annoying.
So she's a
But then we'll cry and be broken and blame others constantly.
much more jaded character. And that brings me to Swamp Thing, the last thing we're going to talk about. A very dark horror story.
I remember a Swamp Thing show from a few years ago that was okay. I don't know if many people are really clamouring for a Swamp Thing story. I don't think they are. And I don't know with today's age of a environmental based character. Earth. He's a creature that can control like things. It's like I have a feeling this is going to have a nice spin on climate change.
Of the monster who is Swamp Thing. And although it's totally outside of the rest of the DCU, it will still feed into the rest of the stories. Anyway, those are the stories that I can tell you about right now. I've loved the DC characters since I was a child. They're incredibly important to me. I knew that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do something very different. One of the things that's very important for me in all of these movies and TV series is that the director's vision and the vision of the writers and all of the creators is unique and something special. Storytelling is always king.
Which we had in Marvel Phase 1. Each of them characters all felt different. They all looked and felt different. They were all directed and written different. And now we get more of a paint-by-numbers character. You could swap one character for another. They all talk the same. They all act the same. They all make the same flippant jokes. They're all sarcastic. That's what I miss about early Marvel, is the fact that things did feel different. So that sounds good. But with that, you do get maybe some directors, writers who might think or want things in a different direction. So it's getting people who are on board with your vision for the long run and not just at the on the onset.
All that matters to us. And I want to be true to those stories. I want to be true to you guys and really give you something different than you've ever seen before.
We had that. I know people don't like the Snyderverse, but we had something different because it was a bit gritty, a bit darker, not just like visually darker and look-wise, but we had that. So now we're going to go with more sort of wacky, broken, degenerate characters because we've got a guy who's slightly wacky and degenerate himself. That's his announcement. So he said in his past. So we've got here in an article. I've got a couple of articles from Bound in His Comics that we've always thought from the outset, with him letting Henry Cavill go, that we're going to use the Flash as a clean slate to just recast everyone or have not Elseworlds, but different versions of them that are established, but it's not the characters we knew. So someone asked on Twitter, Viola Davis is still Amanda Waller. I thought you were rebooting, but no. Flash resets many characters. Not all things. Some characters remain, some do not. So someone's like, what about Gal Gadot? I had a meeting with her a few weeks ago. So that just feels like, looking forward to projects. Disappointed you let Henry and Gal go, but still kept Ezra, because Ezra has his problems. Henry didn't fit with what I have for Superman. So it feels like we could get certain people back from Zack's world, but it's like, so when Flash resets things, is the people that are staying behind from the past universe going to be different versions of themselves? Like, is let's say Ben Affleck's Batman. If he's one of the ones that does come back, would he play and act different to the version before because things might have been reset and be different? I just think it's a weird way. For me, if you're going to come in and do this and you're going to bring in a Batman and Superman, clean slate everything. Wipe everything clear. You could have used Flash to completely do that, but this feels like he's picking his own toys to stick with what he wants. In this one, it says that Henry Cavill, he was never cast as Superman, which, we didn't fire Henry. Henry was never cast. That's wrong, because Henry has a post here after coming out with Black Adam.
Hey everyone, I wanted to wait until the weekend was over before posting this, because I wanted to give you all a chance.
And this was posted 14 weeks ago.
But now that
it's not that long,
plenty of you have, I wanted to make it official that I am back as Superman. And the image you see on this post and what you saw in Black Adam are just a very small taste of things to come. So there's a lot to be thankful for, and I'll get to that in time. But I wanted to thank you guys most of all. Thank you for your support, and thank you for your patience. I promise it will be rewarded.
Unfortunately not, mate. Unfortunately not. So, yes. We still have Ezra Miller. We still have Zachary Levi for now. We still have Jason Momoa for now. Legacy characters, if you want to call them that. Moving forward, who knows what we're going to be getting. I'm not excited about this anyway. It feels rushed in many ways, especially Batman coming out in 2025. Not Batman, Superman coming out in 2025. You're just saying Henry's video there from 14 weeks ago. Not that long ago. He was said to put this video out. You know, you can come out and say you are Superman. He has plans. So, what were those plans and why have they stopped? You know, if we've got Batman with Damian Wayne, and Batman will be, he'd have been Batman for like 10, 15 years at this point. Why can't we have Superman, who's been around for a few years? You know, Henry was apparently too old for the vision that James had, which is probably a theme in James's life of people maybe aging out and needing to look younger. Why? Why are we doing? Why we're going back to when we've just met Superman and he's moved to Metropolis and he's working at the Daily Planet? Why? Why again? Why in that frame? We could have kept Henry, who, yes, is in his late 30s now, but we could have just skipped some of that. What happened? Use a flash to reset things, tonally, so it doesn't feel like Zack Snyder's world. Kept Henry, and you could have had him, move on from Lex. Just move on from Lex. We need to do that. Get to Brainiac. Get to proper Doomsday. Get to just all the stuff that we've not seen of Superman before. It feels like what James is going to do is things we've already seen before, already read in the comics, already know about, most people know about, maybe not the normies. Is there going to be some retelling stories that we might have seen from Christopher Reeves' Superman? It's just like, why again? It's like resetting Spider-Man and being like, right, we're going to put you back in high school. It's like, can we move on from this? Like, the one thing I hope with Tom Holland is I hope he sticks around and we get a longer take on his Spider-Man going to college, meeting different people, and getting to like Parker Industries at some point, not always going back to being the teenager. I'd love to see Batman in his prime, and we did see him, but not enough. He was just part of BVS and Justice League. Like, that Batman felt great. He was a guy who knew what he was doing. He wasn't fumbling around, figuring things out, like Robert Pattinson's, which I tried watching that film. I've tried watching it twice. It was boring. I stopped watching it. I don't know if it's superhero fatigue for me, because I've dipped out of Marvel quite a lot. I've not watched any of their shows apart from... The only one that I've watched fully was Moon Knight, because I was very intrigued with that character, someone that I've read about in the Marvel Knights world, and he did intrigue me, but that show was a mess. I did try and watch WandaVision to start with, got bored of that. I had no interest in Captain Falcon and Winter Soldier, because he's not Captain America. That's Steve Rogers. That will always be. And with this, like I said, when he said we've got an 8 to 10 year plan, it's like, I'd go with maybe try and stick the landing on making sure, like, is the Superman film good? Do people like it? Yes. Okay. We had all this stuff planned, or like, maybe framework, not planned, but sort of kind of fluid. Like, if it doesn't work, we've got this path. If it does, we've got this path. If it needs a complete redirection, we've got this path. Like, at least try and do that. Does Batman work? Okay, fine. Let's keep them going on the same path. If not, let's move them around and try to get things going. But having a big plan and putting time and effort into getting writers, getting production, getting previouses, getting storyboards out there, and if things aren't working, you're wasting money. And Warner Brothers don't have money to be wasting, so it'd be great if all this works. I think James Gunn's maybe not the right person to be leading the creative side of this, because he has a very clear pathway which he does with his broken, messed up degenerate characters that you can put a spin on. You can go on Spotify and pull up his favourite playlist and be like, I want that song in the film, I want that song in the film. Ooh, people will meme this, and ooh, that'll be fun, because people will be like, oh, I remember that song, or my mum remembered that song. It's like, that's all I remember from his films. It's just a soundtrack. I don't remember anything else. It's just a soundtrack and visuals with broken characters who, you know, some are redeemable, some are not. Some are there just for make quirky faces. It's just a very, very odd choice, and I think I'm mostly soured for the fact that we finally got our boy Henry back. We finally got him back after all these years of being pissed around to then get pissed around again. And you get him out there, James going, oh no, but I like Henry, he's a really good guy and we'll work on future projects together. It's like, no you won't, you're just saying that, you're just being polite. Obviously, he didn't like him. He had a vision for Superman for some unknown reason. This is his vision. I'm not impressed with it. Like I said in the video, the only ones that I'm slightly intrigued by is the Green Lantern and maybe seeing what they do with Batman. I do think it'll be more of a Damian Wayne story than Batman. Anyway, let me know your thoughts below on this. Bit of a rambly video. It's been mulling over my mind a few days. I've not made a video on this channel for ages. I wanted to actually make videos on this channel of things I enjoyed, like animes I enjoyed, video games that I've enjoyed, films that I've enjoyed. But a lot of pop culture these days, I seem to drop quite quickly because I'm not enjoying it. Like video games wise, I'm playing Mass Effect 3 for the third time. Not in a row, but it's the third time properly. Like, I'm going back to things. There's not really new things that I'm finding. I'm going back to things. The TV show I'm watching at the moment, I'm watching Home Improvements from the 90s. I'm on season 3 of that, because there's not out there now that I enjoy. So let me know your thoughts below on this. If there's people out there who know who the fuck Booster Gold is, know who Creature Commandos are, know who the Authority are, let me know. And let me know if any of this feels like it'll fit, because a lot of these broken, degenerate characters that are there, it's like, this feels like what we had. You know, it felt like it might have fit the Snyderverse than an all new, all different DC. It's just strange. So thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts below. As always, like, share, subscribe, do all algorithm stuff. Check the links in the descriptions, ways to follow me, support the channel. Catch you guys in the next video, whenever that may be. Bye bye.